It's time for fashion at the Fashion Empire, the reality journal inside and out of the fashion industry. With your hostess, fashion editor, editorial photographer, and model manager Jackie Bertolette. She shares her experiences, her tips and tricks, and how-tos and trends, and talks with other fashion and beauty insiders. Let's join the conversation. Today's episode is sponsored by Tiffany Rose Antiques and Vintage Apparel in Mentor, Ohio. You can visit them in-store or online at Instagram Tiffany Rose Antiques. Ingenuity Labs at the Hamilton, a creative community in Cleveland, Ohio. You can visit them on Facebook, Ingenuity. Darla Fox, formal wear boutique, unique and interesting apparel. South Park Mall in Strongsville, Ohio. You can visit them in-store or online at Instagram, Darla Fox. Thanks for joining us in the Empire. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. We have an awesome show lined up for you and want to remind you to stay tuned through the end of the episode for our much anticipated Good to Know segment featuring 5 tips from industry insiders. We're excited to offer the opportunity to be entered for a chance to win a 1-year free e-subscription to Hot Ohio magazine when you comment the timestamp at which the Hot Ohio logo drops a photo or voice-over bomb. And before you leave the page, be sure to subscribe, comment, like, and turn on notifications to be the first to know when new episodes hit the air. We love to hear from our citizens, so be sure to comment or email afashionempire@hotohio.com. You can see this podcast on YouTube or on our website, hotohio.com, and our Facebook and Instagram pages, or you can listen to it on audio podcast platforms across the web. And if you're an industry insider, shoot us an email. We'd love to have you on our podcast here in the Empire. All right, now let's join the conversation. Hello, and welcome to the Empire, the Fashion Empire, where it's always a great day to style. I'm your host, Jackie Bertolette. I own Hot Ohio Magazine, Ohio Fashion Week, Discovered Model Scouting and Management, and I am a professional photographer at Jacqueline J. Photographic Arts. You can learn all about me on our Facebook, on our Instagram, and you can watch us on video for YouTube, or the audio you can listen to on podcast platforms across the web. Here is my co-host, Arcel.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
I'm so good today. It's a little chilly.
It is.
But we're going to get through it. Yes, we are.
Get through it. So, again, I am Marcel. I'm a spokesmodel, runway model, print model. I've raced set the runway on fire. So many things. I miss it. COVID, go away. Seriously, go away. I need to get back on the stage. But today we have her with us, and he is amazing. I got to shoot with him. I did a shoot with him, and let me tell you, it was something totally out. It was new for me, and I loved every second, like literally every second. It was just a different type of photography, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. He's done numerous shows, publications. I mean, we just really need to go ahead and just put him on the screen. So, Herb.
Good morning. How are you? Welcome. Thank you for having me. It's the most exciting thing I've done in months because I haven't done much of anything in months.
Well, there you have it.
I took a very specific 3-month hiatus from all shooting as of December to wait for what we knew would be the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, and New Year's Eve surges to expand, and then thank God they're contracting. I get my first shot next week. Yes, I'm at that age bracket. I'm there. I'm there. I'm one of the older guys. You can see that. And I'm really looking forward to getting back into the studio and back into the game and starting to work again. It's been a real dry period. On the other hand, done a hell of a lot of cleaning.
Yes.
Organizing, straightening, throwing stuff out, archiving. The time has been very well spent.
Yes, it has. And let me tell you, I have had the pleasure of being at your home, and it is an incredible place. I mean, he has portraits hung in every square corner of your home, including a vast library on photography. Being a photographer, I certainly understand how important that is and how exciting it is. I mean, your library is incredible.
Over the years, the compliment I've gotten is that you're a good photographer. Now, my mother said I was a good photographer, but not a great photographer. And unfortunately, she passed before I became a great photographer. But I'm a good photographer because I work very hard at being good. I have talent, I have ability, I'm good looking, I'm charming, I'm great behind a camera, but I work very, very hard. And one of the single most important elements of my work is my education. And I have various master's degrees, et cetera, but what my college education taught me was the tools to teach myself. And the first thing I started to do when I left college and got into photography, having worked at various other and sundry situations, having been fired by most of them, at which point I was working for my father for, I think I lasted 11 months before I quit, or he fired me, whichever happened first. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to be a photographer. He says, how are you going to live?
That's a good question.
We never answered that question. We just sort of moved on. But for 45 years, I've been a photographer. And I've also been a book collector and a lecturer, a historian, a writer. I'm an editor. I edit a literary magazine. I lecture all over the world. But the essence of who I am comes from the fact that I have approximately 2,384 books on photography in my library and 150 on the Italian Renaissance.
Yes.
Which is the origin of
literally an entire room full of
which is the Italian Renaissance is the origin of all Western cultural thought. Mm-hmm. And I have been to Florence, and I've been to the Uffizi, and I've been to the Louvre, and of course the Met, and our own fabulous Cleveland Museum of Art, which is one of the gems in this country. Every city I go to on a job, I'll go to the art museum. I'll open my eyes, I'll learn, I'll bring things in, and as we say, amateurs borrow, professionals steal. If I see it and I like it, I'll take it home. I have crib sheets and tear sheets and notebooks of ideas, of things to do when I have the opportunity to incorporate them. But my point is, it's a continuous learning experience. Mm-hmm. You don't know what you don't know. And every time you sit down with a book, you have an insight into someone else's thinking. And if you're smart and you're astute and you're sharp and you're paying attention, you understand who that person, the photographer was or that artist was, what they had in mind, how they conveyed it, and how you can internalize what you learned from their experience into your own work and move forward to not only uplift your own status of ability, but to uplift the art in general. And that's my major motivation, is to keep moving forward. I'm very much stuck in the 20s and 30s. I mean, to me, fashion photography hit its peak with these magnificent indoor sets. I worked with an 8x10 view camera, 4-letter word starts with F, film.
I remember that.
I hand process my own pictures. I have a lab. We're a wet lab. We actually get our fingers wet in chemistry. And I love the black and white element, and now the platinum element, which was patented in 1873, which is a handmade picture. So I'm very much involved with the culture of photography as it became to the contemporary photography. I'm back in the 20s and 30s, World War II, 1950, moved into abstraction. Avedon, you quoted earlier, moved it onto the street. Many, many different areas and innovations that get you to where fashion photography is today. I pick my shots. I'll go into a shoot with 20 sheets of film, not 2,000 digital frames.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no room for error.
Yeah.
I will light usually through a window. I have mastered studio lighting, of course, in many, many years of portraits. But my favorite would be to have a window lit scenario, portrait by Ascherman, lighting by God. We're a good team. We produce beautiful things. And the results are captured in beautiful black and white film. I'm not out to to make a splash. I'm out to show something which is traditional, which is elegant, which has roots, which has depth, which will be looked at in years to come, rather than just flip through in Vogue magazine. Gee, that's nice. Gee, that's nice. Gee, that's or not even nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's exactly true. And the thing that's really fascinating for me is back when I was in school, we had film. We learned how to use the view cameras, which is the type of camera that you mostly shoot on. Although you do use.
Yes, I use. Honey.
Mm-hmm.
Here it
Cell
is.
phones. I was referring more to 35 millimeter.
Here
but
it
okay.
Here it is. Yes, I own digital cameras. Cameras, what people don't understand is that cameras are tools. The best camera to have is
Eyeball.
the one in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in a situation where you need something fast, the quality of this camera is 10 times better than the first digital camera made.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So there is no onus of saying, I took this on a cell phone,
Right.
an iPhone, whatever you want to call it. The 35 millimeter format for digital is the standard and the backbone, and that's what the industry is built out of.
Mm-hmm.
But when all else fails, don't miss the shot.
Right. That's what. Yeah, I did miss a shot on a couple
And-
of things
and
that
I-
I wish were on a regular camera, but they're on a cell phone.
And I do work with 35 millimeter black and white, 2 1/4 black and white, 8x10 black and white, and
what
whatever.
type of 2 1/4 do you use? Do you have a Hasselblad?
I have the Hasselblads that I bought 40 years ago,
Oh,
and
see,
they're
now he's talking my language.
and they're reconditioned on a decade basis. Now they
Oh,
sit
my
mostly
goodness.
in my closet in camera cases.
Mhm.
But back in the day, I would easily run, and I'm not exaggerating, 100,000 frames of black and white a year
Mhm. Oh my gosh.
through those Hasselblads.
I
And
love.
we just tore them up and wore them out.
Mhm. I mean, these are cameras that I learned on, you know, so I've used it. There are things with the view camera that people don't have any clue about. You know, most people don't even know what a view camera is, but they have a bellows where the ground glass, they move apart from each other based on the distance of the focal plane, blah, 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 blah. And there's like an actual formula for creating a bellows draw. And people don't know that either. So it's so scientific, and people don't realize how scientific photography is.
I received a letter this week from an architectural firm that does restoration and innovation work on National Historic landmarks.
Mm-hmm.
The criteria of the Library of Congress for National Historic landmarks is photography on 8x10 film with fiber prints.
Okay.
He tells me I'm the only one in Ohio and one of 3 or 4 in the entire East Coast that has the capability, the background, and experience. And I'm going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
That's me, man. That's it.
And the next statement was, we worked from Washington to Hawaii. And I'm going ka-ching, ka-ching.
Mhm.
When are we moving? When are we going ahead?
That's right.
So here I am at this part of my career where I've spent 45 years practically in the trenches of day-to-day photography, and I'm finally getting something that's really going to be awful. Not that gorgeous people aren't, absolutely not, but this is going to be when they can sell the job.
Yeah.
You know, when they get the opportunity, this will be a tremendous challenge to me, and an awful lot of fun. And then he opens his mouth and he says, "And I'll be with you." And I said, "The fee just doubled."
Yeah, I have to put up with you.
Anybody within 20 feet, fee doubles.
That's right. Well, yeah, because you do like to work alone.
You
And
have
that's, it's kind of an oxymoron for me because I tell my models that they should never go into a situation when there's a chaperone allowed on set. However, in your case, I personally know you. I know that you're a reputable photographer, so I would be okay sending one of my models to you to go without a chaperone. But not knowing you, I would never have sent a model to you.
Of course
Is
not.
that a problem for you?
Not in
Like,
the
do you
least.
run into
Not in the
that
least.
as an issue?
I've had situations where, and I have a strict no visitor policy unless you're in the picture.
Right, that's true.
Now,
And
if
he
you're
doesn't let, he doesn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say
if
he's
you're
very strict. Yeah.
support, if it's a commercial job and I'm the client, meaning they're paying me, sure, there are parameters, and there should be a makeup person. When you're doing that kind of technical work, you need an extra pair of eyes. You definitely have to have other people involved. When I'm working on my own privately, if you're in the room, you're either in the picture or you're not in the room. And I've had situations where one guy, I was photographing his girlfriend or something, and she's here, the door is open, and he's sitting in the hall watching us. And it's like, why don't you just go across the street and get a cup of coffee or something? No, I have to be here. It's like, okay, just stay the hell out of my way.
Right.
And we'll be friends. And sure enough, he sat there and
Stay out of my way and we're
he
friends.
smoked cigarettes, and the hallway was a mess, and I'm photographing the model, and he picked up a left, and I never did that again.
Yeah, I imagine that would be
Because
a
with a
difficult
view
thing.
camera, most of the exposures are anything from a half a second to 2 or 3 seconds.
Correct. The model
So that you're
actually
saying
has to stay still for
Deep
that.
breath, let half of it out, hold that, click. 1, 2, click. And if there's anything else, there's never any music when I shoot, because I want her or his complete attention on me. I want them to be focused on what we're doing. I want them to be centered. I want to be the most important man in their life, regardless of who they are. I want their attention. I want their affection. I want their concentration. And you can't have that if you have a cadre of people
Right.
all around you, particularly because she'll be looking at this one rather than looking at me.
Yep.
And that's,
Or your personal feelings about that person in the room is going to show up.
Exactly.
So if
It
you
can.
have a contempt for somebody that's in the room, or if you have, a lust for somebody in the room, that's going
It's
to end
gonna
up on
show.
the film.
You're not going to get the right shot that you need to get when we shot together. That was completely new for me because here I am, I'm ready to do the hoe. You know what I'm saying? He was like, "Stay still," and I'm like, "It's real." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm holding this pose, okay, and I'm like, "You never told me to like move." So I'm still holding this pose, and I'm like, "You haven't told me to move," and he's like, "You're doing great." He's under his
Up under the clock.
yes, and he's like, "Don't move," and I'm like. Like, all right, next pose. I'm like,
what did I do?
yes, like, but
that's
those
the process.
pictures.
Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Hello.
The one that I was in the frame, like, it was I've never done anything like it. It was really.
That is exactly why I encourage my models to shoot with multiple photographers. Because had I not met Herb, there's no way she would have ever been in front of an 8x10 camera.
Yes.
I mean, the chance of not too many people
Right.
use that camera anymore.
Not too many.
So,
Yeah.
to be able to experience how to model in front of that type of a camera is like a once in a lifetime.
Yes, like I mean, holding even the pose that I did, my face I was kind of like turned. I mean, like the way that I angled. I mean, you can. I mean, yes, you have to stand there now. You have to stay. Oh, like you cannot move. Like if you move, that's it. That's it. There's your picture. You know what I'm saying? Like it was so different. Like man, I hope I was worried, like how the pictures was going to turn out because I'm so used to high fashion, and I'm like ready, like oh, I got this. Knock this out. But when you told me to freeze and hold it, and we was holding that pose, I was like, yeah, this is a new level of modeling. Like I was like,
It's deep breath.
yes. And
Let half of it out. Relax and just calm down. We're not bouncing off the wall with maybe 7 decibels of music coming here. I'm not asking you to dance all over the place.
Exactly.
It was calm.
And
Like,
there's
it was,
only 4 shots,
Yeah.
so you better get it right.
you have to like if you have an itch, you better just
Right.
ignore it. Don't you move that hand because that hand will be in that shot, and then that's
The reason behind that is because you have a focus on that camera,
Yes.
which is literally 2 to 3 inches deep.
Yes, the field is very
So once
small.
it's called depth of field. So once I'm focused on your eyes, which are your most beautiful asset, that's where I want to see. Everything else before and in front behind of that is going to drop either in or focus or out of focus accordingly. So that if you move, I start all over again. So it's run with me, honey. Hold the pose, stay still, and I promise you that we'll have results, which you saw, and sure enough, we did. But let me talk about that for a minute.
Let's talk about it.
Photography is a collaboration. I never, ever use the word model. I use the word collaborate. As good as I am, unless it's in front of the camera, unless we have a rapport, unless we are working together, then I have nothing. For example, when a sitter comes in and to work with me, there are 5 things going through her mind. Who I am, who I think I am, who I want to be. Now let's consider those. Who I am, got up this morning, put on my makeup. Who I want to be, absolutely charming. Who I think I am, 6'3", 97,
No,
97 pounds,
seriously, yes.
the most elegant, dramatic, beautiful creature that's ever walked the earth, and my feet never touch the ground.
Okay.
Okay, so who I am, who I think I am, who I want to be. Then, what the cameras and the film and the lighting do to you. So that's a product, as you had discussed previously. You can take someone with a very beautiful chiseled face, and you can take someone with a little face like a bowling ball, and you can modify them given the logistics of what you are doing and the methodology of your lighting, of your camera, of your setup, of your background. But the 5th quality, the 5th element, is the most important: how you relate to the person behind the camera.
Absolutely.
I have photographed, true, 9,000 black and white portraits. I've taken about 2,500, 3,000 color, but we don't count those because those are just color. And in that 9,000 portraits, we're talking about individual portrait sittings where people come and sit in or stand in front of me.
Right.
There were several classics, like the guy who walks in, big deal CEO, and he says, I don't want to be here, I don't like my picture taking, and I don't like you. And it was like,
Okay.
okay, why are you here? Because my secretary said that you were the best. So he put aside his personal feelings because he knew I could deliver. And another woman came in at another time. In those days, we were using proofs. We print out all the pictures on little 5x5 frames. Slams them on the floor. God damn it, these aren't me. And I said, lady, there were 2 of us here, and I was behind the camera. You know, like, what is the problem? If you don't like who you are, it's going to show.
Yeah.
You can't hide from me.
Yeah.
If you don't have it on the inside, you're not going to have it on the outside. She paid, she went out the door. But there's no other place, like, other than perhaps your psychiatrist, we'll leave your mother out of this, that you talk to, or you're more defenseless and vulnerable than you are with your photographer, and you establish the magic word, RAPPORT, rapport. And you establish that relationship, and you establish trust, and you establish collaboration, because I can't take it from you. If I try to do that, I get the surface. I get a piece of cardboard. If you're collaborating with me and you're giving it to me, I can take it. I can catch it, and I can, as we did, show it back to you and say, this is what I saw. Thank you very much for your participation. It's not me. It's us. It's not my ego. It's what we create together. And I have always remembered that, and I never forget that. And I thank the people who sit in front of me for the privilege of working with them.
Yes.
I get the big bucks. I get the credit. My name goes on the bottom. But I thank them for participating and allowing me that opportunity. And I don't think that that attitude is very widely shared in the photography market.
No, I would say that's accurate.
Yeah, you're right. It's not. Like, I've shot with so many photographers.
Yeah, I've never shot with anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't even have a portrait of myself other than a self-portrait. I never. Oh, well, yeah, true. He actually, I was in the room, and so I had to get photographed. But it has my kids in it. So it's a fabulous portrait, though. It's on my wall.
Let's say the one in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, someday we'll do the whole family.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband wants to do that. I need to get like actual, headshots.
Right, yeah.
But I haven't worked with a photographer other than you, I think. Then, yeah.
So hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Here,
Yeah.
just dial it in right now.
Right. Right.
But since school, I don't think I've sat in front of somebody else's camera. I could be wrong. I think you're the only person I sat in front of the camera. So
A lot of photographers should think, because they don't think. They don't, you have the model, you do your photo shoot.
Well, that's the preconceived hierarchy.
Mhm.
I am the photographer, you are the model.
yes.
When I work together,
We're together.
we're together.
We see everything.
Because I know I can't do it without you, and I need everything you've got, and I need you to give it to me. Besides, it's much more fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It should be enjoyable.
Yes.
There was a fashion photographer in Cleveland who was very famous, and the models hated him because although he was very, very good, he yelled and he screamed and he debased and he abused. He always got great stuff. I don't know how he did it, but the girls would leave there in tears, and some of the guys did.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and I knew him, and I just never could understand where the lack of respect comes from.
I don't know, because I've seen it.
Yes, I had a photographer. I shot with him one time, and that was the last time. And that's when I really started getting closer with Jackie, because I'm like, these photographers out, I could not, because I'm the type of person that I need to know why you want me. Why do you want me to do this for? What is this? What's the purpose? Where is it going? I need to know. You don't think, yeah, I researched, but the research didn't say that you just wanted me. We were shooting, and he just put the camera down to the side. He was like, "Okay, take the top off."
Excuse me?
Yes, excuse me?
Yeah, I was like, no. I said, this is not what we talked about. So I don't know if this is what I said. You know what? This shoot is just over. And I did leave. And the reason why I left, yeah, he probably is going to talk bad about me, but at the end of the day, I left because that's not the photography that we talked about. And you're not going to make me feel like I'm less of a person because I don't want to take my top off, or I don't want to put. I'm not shooting naked with you. That's not going to work. And how you said it, that just makes me feel like you just want to see my little chest.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that. I'm not doing that. You're not going to mess with my career.
And that was presumed.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, it was I just
presumed when you walked in there.
Yeah.
That was going to be the end of the end result of the shoot. He just did, include you in that.
Yeah. The shoot was great. It was we did a lot. I was outside in the rain. We did a lot of stuff. But then close to the end, he was just like, okay, take the top off. No.
Goodness gracious.
I said, well, I guess we're done. That's what I said.
I guess
well,
we
thank
are.
you for work. I appreciate it. I kept it professional, then I blocked it. There was nothing else
I blocked it.
Yeah, I did.
Plenty of technology.
And I did. I got you sent me maybe 4 or 5 pictures, and I was like, oh yeah, I have to block this one. And I went ahead and I blocked it because I don't want. And then when I see other people work with them, they always post how that photographer was. And I'm just maybe I should have just told you, but you never told me this is the person you were shooting, because I always try to go. If I shot with them or if I did it, and if I found out it was a scam or it just wasn't
GWC.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell. I'm telling. My favorite word. I'm telling.
I'm telling.
I sound like a little 12 kid. I'm telling.
You have to.
I'm
the
telling.
truth is that it's scary for it's a scary industry, and really in a lot of ways the photographers are the captains of the ship. So some models don't know when they can say no, and some it should always be discussed ahead of time. You should never walk into something and there be a surprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So if you're going to do a nude shoot, know you're going to do a nude shoot, and already talk about what the concept of that shoot is.
Right.
Don't expect to have to take your top off if that wasn't in the plans in the
Exactly.
first place.
And you don't have to. You
That's right.
don't have to. You go and do your shoot.
Mhm.
What you and that photographer talked about. If it is something that you did not talk about, it is okay to say no.
Mhm.
It is okay to walk away after you've done your job. I mean, yeah, people are going to talk bad about you anyway. If they
Yeah,
don't,
they're gonna
if
talk
they don't
bad
know it,
anyway.
they're gonna make it up.
It
So,
doesn't matter.
yeah,
It doesn't
like
matter.
you just have to know, like you just have to know your limits and, and how you want your career to be.
Right, and stay true to yourself.
Yep.
So talking about nude shoots, or we have a new show that you're going to be doing, a photo show that is for the Cleveland Photo Fest, which you are director.
Founder and director. The Cleveland Photo Fest was founded 2 years ago by myself, Rod Alessandro, Jim Zudi, as an answer to the fact that Cleveland did not have any centralized, localized, or citywide photo event. I was called for a cup of coffee at Civilizations in February 2 years ago by Laura. And she said, there's this guy I want you to meet. Let's talk about a photo show. And 2.5 hours later, we had laid out the prototype for what was the Cleveland Photo Fest 2019, suspended 2020. I didn't want to deal with anything, didn't want to deal with nothing.
Right.
So we canned it. This year, we have the Bostwick Design Arch Initiative, which is 27th and Prospect, which is 4,200 feet of 6 different galleries that we are going to fill with photography shows. Two of which, actually, I should talk about. Talking about nudity, is called Deja Nude. Deja Nude, Deja Vu, Deja Scenic. But it's an upbeat, fun, involved, unique show.
Yeah.
No heavy drama, no bright lights, no intensity, no sharp, curves of the woman's body, no sex toys. Well, maybe.
No.
We haven't seen the submissions yet. But the idea is for a fun, upbeat show containing nudity, some part or all,
Right.
no restrictions. And we're in the process of the submissions go to March 15th. ClevelandPhotoFest.com will have all the information on it. And you submit through, we have an organization called Smarter Entry. So you submit directly through, you pay a small fee, it'll be judged. Pictures are hanging in prints, none of this virtual stuff. We're hanging photography, actual prints, and we expect to have a very good time. The other show, there's actually 2 other very important shows, is called For Women Only, Dear Diary, Show Us Your Secrets. And anyone can submit to this. And anyone could submit to this. The third open for public exhibition is photography, F-U-R, without the cliches to show into the dogs. Now, if you have a cat, if you're a cat person, that's very nice. I owned a cat once. Now 2 dogs own me. It's a dog show. The keynote exhibition for the whole program, and we have 3 other photographers who will be exhibiting in smaller galleries. Those are the 3 that the photography, the women's show, and the nude show that are open to public submission. But the show that is the crown, the jewel in the crown, is called I Identify As. And what we did, and this show, I want to make a very important point, was conceived a 1.5 years ago, before any of the social unrest that has swept the country and the world since the unfortunate death of George Floyd, or actually, I hate to say fortunate, but that one single incident changed the entire culture and the dynamic on an international, on a world scale. I mean, if you point to one man, unfortunately, it cost him his life, but the repercussions of that incident has shattered every wall and every industry throughout the world. So a 1.5 years ago, a year before the George Floyd incident occurred, I sat down with my team, which then included Randy Norfus, who was a very prominent black photographer in Cleveland. And I said, we need something different. I identify as. We've contacted 30 black photographers and those who identify as other. We contacted 30 white photographers and those who identify as other. We arbitrarily paired them up. So a black photographer photographs a white photographer who photographs a black photographer. And we are going to have a show of 60 portraits, all black and white, of the product of this photographic exhibition. The guy that I photographed, very nice guy, never met him before, sat there and said, you know, I would have never met you. I would have never had my picture taken by you. And I would have never been involved in this experience had you not asked. I mean, he hit 1, 2, 3 of the 3 major points behind the foundation of what this show was to get people out of their box, to get them to cross lines, to get them to shake hands. And as we've said, what's more intimate than sitting in front of a camera and bearing a little soul, particularly to someone that many of the people met first and then they photographed second just to introduce themselves, but who you've never met before, let alone who shares a different culture. So the show to watch out for, the show to attend is called I Identify As, and we have black, we got white, we got Mexican American, we got Latino, we have American Indians, we have an Egyptian, we got an Egyptian, found an Egyptian, get me an Egyptian. I got one over here, bring him in. We have people,
100% diverse.
people who identify as various different cultural backgrounds. Brown, a couple of them wrote, what are you? I'm brown. Fine, be brown. And come and have a good time with us. So the show will open to the public May 1st through June 30th. I invite all of the viewing Cleveland. We're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have extended hours Thursday and Friday. We have programs every Thursday night, which will be publicized on our website, clevelandphotofest.org, or .com, one of the two. I don't know. I think it's .org. We'll go with .org. If you can't find us, Cleveland Photo Fest. But we anticipate that we will have, even with COVID, well over 1,000 people visiting us throughout the 2 months of the show. So just to enjoy the Thursday night programs. One of our speakers is a black woman who was a photojournalist in Saudi Arabia for 10 years. So she's going to talk about her experiences in the Mideast. We have Alex and Irene Shalin, who are Cleveland's crazy Russians who photograph the world. They do travel logs all over the world. She's got shocking red hair, better than your blouse. I mean, it's red. We have a filmmaker who does work with early 20th century European black and white films, 2 and 3 minute films that he finds in various film logs and places. And we've got 4 or 5 other conversations that will be had and presentations where we have one spoken word evening where the musicians will key off the photograph and the poet will key off the photograph and do a presentation of their interpretations of photographs in a particular gallery. We're considering a modern dance troupe, and we figured we'll turn the lights out as legally as we can, show a flashlight on a picture, flashlights on the dancers, they will interpret the picture, and then we move to the next one. So we're trying to work on the visual, the oral, the creative, the musical, all the different levels of expression as they relate to the visual image.
That's amazing.
I'm in the portrait show. I'm not in the other show.
I'm in the portrait. And the one the show that's going to be interpreted, is that the I Identify As show?
No, that will be a special show in collaboration of poets, musicians, and photographers. That's the stuff. So they'll all get together and collaborate. The photographer will make the picture based on their conversation. This is all theory. We'll see what happens. Because we're dealing with artists And you know what that number is all about.
And COVID.
Yes.
So who knows?
And COVID. So the intention is the photographer will take a picture, the musician will interpret it, and the spoken word will interpret the musician and the picture. So it's an exciting year. We have lots of love, no money, but great ideas.
Welcome to the
Yeah,
reality.
here's the
of life.
reality of it.
We are an all volunteer organization. We're constantly looking for volunteers to collaborate and to participate. And our objective is to make a mark on Cleveland. I am a fourth generation Clevelander. There is a God and there are miracles because I have a son who lives 1 mile from me and I have 2 grandsons. So the 5th and 6th generation of Aschermans live in Cleveland to help promote and to help build this incredible city that has given me a life. And I've photographed in 43 states and 35 countries. Maybe Paris I've lived in, but there ain't too many other places in the world that I would live in besides Cleveland. If you can stand, we got summer, we got winter, and we got everything else.
Yeah.
2 months of summer, 2 months of winter, and 8 months of everything else. If you can deal with the weather here, it's a phenomenal place to be.
It really is. Now, what would you say is the most unique or memorable place that you photographed?
Place?
Location?
Every time I leave the studio, my house, on a trip, it's an adventure. And with an inquiring mind and open eyes, every place is the most beautiful. I mean, I've been to Japan. I was actually hired to teach in Australia. I've seen magnificent things worldwide. I was on my way to Egypt to see the pyramids, and they had a war that broke out, so that took care of that. I've walked Ireland and photographed the standing stones of Stonehenge. I've been to Paris over 30 times. I've been to all over Europe and the Middle East. Every place is reverential. It's all beautiful. It's all awesome. And one of the shows that we're having is by a guy named Tim Lachina, who does Polaroids of Lake Erie early in the morning and late at night, of the sunsets and the sunrise. So you can travel the world, but as my favorite friend once said to me, when I sold my first photograph in 1975, I called my closest friend from college up, who is a very famous photographer to this day, and said, "Sal, I sold the picture. What'd you get for it? $30, less the commission, $27.50. He said, "Where'd you take it?" I said, "I was coming up the staircase in my house and I saw a patch of light on the landing and I took this picture." And there was a silence on the phone. He said, "Herb." Actually, he said Ascherman. He never called me Herb. To this day, he calls me Ascherman. I don't know if he knows my first name. He said, "Ascherman, if you can't do it in your own backyard, you can't do it." And that has been something which I have taught in every class and in every lecture I've ever given worldwide to people all over in every different discipline. You don't have to. Yes, you need the experience. Yes, the more experience you have, the greater a person, because it comes from within, the greater artist, the greatest visionary you become. But if you can't see it in your own backyard,
Exactly.
the pyramids ain't going to make it.
So now, Herb has started writing for Photo Home magazine. Did you know that?
No.
That's
See,
because
the
she
things
doesn't
you
read it.
learn.
Yes, I've been learning all day. This has been a great day.
We have been blessed with Herb writing a column about
Yes.
photography and mostly focusing on fashion and modeling and that kind of thing. But he also shares other topics in photography and some anecdotes, which are so funny, so funny. So you really want to check out his column in our issues. He also, we're talking about doing a collab with Ohio Fashion Week. Looking at that, we had planned one last year, but of course everything changed. So hopefully this year it will work, especially if we go virtual, which is looking more and more like that's going to happen. So we're just excited. The thing that's so thrilling for me is that he's just a little bit older than me, not a lot, a little. But we actually learned about Herb in school. So Herb was just starting out. Yes, we did. Yes.
You.
What?
Yes. So you were just starting out. You'd only been maybe 5 or 6 years into the industry, but we had a lesson on Ascherman, and among other obviously famous photographers. And you were sort of a one to watch kind of, photographer according to the instructors. And so for me to meet, for me, it's like a huge deal to meet someone that, I looked up to all those years. I watched your career over the years as best as you could before the internet, but because I knew who you were, we learned about you in school. And so it was really exciting for me to meet you in person. And then to be photographed by him, oh my gosh. And my kids were photographed by him. It's an amazing, amazing honor. So I just want to thank you for being with us. Let everybody know how they can get a hold of you if they want to have these absolutely unique and memorable photographs.
Very simple, Herb at Ascherman.net. My website is ASCHERMAN, Ascherman.net. I live in Cleveland. I travel internationally, and I'm available on demand. Thank you very, very much for having me here. This has been absolutely fabulous.
We are so blessed to have you. I appreciate you
Aren't you
taking time to come out and talk with us. And of course, we love having your articles and your columns in our magazine.
I'm very flattered to be able to participate.
And I'm looking forward to submitting to your show for the Cleveland Photo.
I'm sure that there will be some people that will definitely be not that I have any influence over who gets submitted or whatever, but I'm sure that we'll be looking forward to seeing it.
Well, hopefully.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, it's so nice to meet her, isn't it?
Yes.
He's crazy.
Yes,
Cool. Crazy cool gentleman.
Thanks
So,
very much.
If you need to have a really interesting photograph, this is the guy you want to talk to. And we thank you for tuning in. And next time, we'll see you. Until then, be fabulous.
Right.
Okay.
Check us out, hauteohio.com. HAUTEOHIO.com. Did you know? I didn't know. Well, do they know? They might know. Who does know? We know what's good to know.
And it's good to know time once again. I'm starting this time as the photographer, so I'm going to let you know that YouTube education, it's a good continuing education tool, but it really does not replace formal education.
Right.
So please, if you're going to use YouTube as your
Platform.
higher education learning,
Yeah.
please, for God's sakes, practice until the cows come home. Because
Yes. So that way we don't know that you did it on YouTube.
that's right.
Because I'm gonna call you out on this. Like, you got that off of YouTube, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Why you gonna do it like that?
I know, right? I
No,
mean, YouTube
seriously.
has some amazing stuff, and I learned how to do podcasts on
Mhm.
YouTube, so I
True.
mean, it is awesome and it has its value without a doubt, but it definitely does not replace a formal education.
Exactly.
All right,
It
number
doesn't.
2 is
Number
ours now.
2 is very, very important. Models. It is very important. The photographer has so much stuff going on. It is your job to find your lighting. It is
Mhm.
your job. That photographer needs to be worried about his camera, her camera, figure out the settings, whatever it is that they do on that camera, because I have
Mhm.
no idea. But if you don't figure out that lighting, you're going to look a mess.
Mhm.
You're going to look off and it's going to look bad. And you don't want to look bad. You don't
No.
want to look bad. You got to make sure the lighting is good all the time, no matter what. I mean,
Mhm.
if it's a little bit, I'm telling you, you're going to see that makeup part where you be like, oh, I should have blended that in, but you didn't because you was rushing. That's why it's important. That lighting should be important, okay? You
Mhm.
never
Mhm.
go toward, you face the lighting. Don't go on the side or, no, you
Mhm.
face it. You
Mhm.
face it.
Mhm.
It just makes better for a better picture. I'm telling you. Try
Right.
it.
Right.
It is the model's job, not the photographer. The photographer's job is to
Exactly.
shoot you. It is the model's job
Exactly.
to find that lighting.
And to find your angle.
Yes.
You should know how the light reflects on your face.
Yep.
That means standing in front of mirrors for hours
Yeah.
and looking at different, little tiny
Sometimes
little.
what makes you
Exactly.
yeah. Like, I mean,
So that your best feature is always accentuated, and your worst feature is, decentuated. So
yep,
is that a word?
easy,
De-accentuated.
extra accentuated. It can be. We can make it
Recedes. What we want to say is recedes in the image. That's how we say it as
right.
photographers. So yeah.
Like, you don't want to be like my good side. I don't know, the camera's like kind of switching. So it's looking like it's the left side, like this
Mm-hmm.
side right there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
This would be my good side, which would be
Yeah.
my left side. I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have to make sure, like, if I was posing, I would automatically turn this way. Because look at my jawline. Like, that's perfect. Like, there's no need in me hiding that. The
Right.
hair.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But models, that is your job. The photographer's not going to tell you, oh, I want to know
Mm-hmm.
that he's not.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
your pictures turn out the way that you posed, it's you. It's not the photographer. It is
Right.
you.
Usually. Yep.
Yeah. You cannot
The
blame the
model needs to
photographer.
know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Now, sometimes the model or the photographer will ask the model to move a certain way, or, turn their face slightly, or, whatever. But overall, the base should come from the model. You should know what
Yes.
you're doing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The
And it takes,
photographer knows their
yes.
job. You should know your job.
Yep. Absolutely. I
Mhm.
agree.
And number 3, the photographer needs to know lighting.
Yes. That's
Not just
important.
the model needs to know what their lighting is, but the photographer needs to know how lighting handles itself.
Yep.
It needs to
Absolutely.
know, or he or she needs to know, Kelvin, and, the difference between tungsten and incandescent, and,
Right.
all those things need to be, back to formal education is
Right.
important.
Very important.
Important.
Important. Important. Okay, it's important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And number 4, you should know how the light's going to behave
Yes.
in every situation. As a
Every.
photographer, you should know if you put shades up, what's that going to diffuse? If if it's raining, what kind of refraction is going to happen in the waters? I mean, that you just need to know how light behaves. Again, formal education.
Formal education.
Well, you
Formal.
could probably Google it.
Yeah, but you want to get the real education behind it though,
Mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm,
there's nothing like, because I'm a model, I'm not going to like jump the gun. I would never, disrespect a photographer's work like at all. I have a manager
mm-hmm.
that I can confine in with that.
That's
But
right.
that's
Yeah,
your
you
job,
you do
not
have
mine.
it a little. You could just call me up and say, "Hey, is this
Exactly.
right?" And I'll say, "No, you should know that."
Right, right,
Mhm,
right. So
mhm.
it's you. The models are. It's not to argue with the photographer. That's not,
Right.
because then what happens is that sets a bad taste. You don't want photographers to have a bad taste. You don't. You
Exactly.
want to call back.
Mhm.
Anytime you work with somebody, you want to
Yep.
call back.
Mhm. Yep. All right, number 5, Arcel.
Number 5. Understanding that the photographer's job is to please everybody else, including the model. It is your job to bring it every single
That's right.
time. You don't
Nail it.
have time. First of all, when you're at a shoot, you're working.
Mhm.
You're not. That is not a playground. I don't
Mhm.
understand why, some people feel like, oh, well, it's just a photo shoot, or if I'm not getting paid. Trust me, I've done many of photo shoots where I did not get paid, but I ended
Mhm.
up on the magazine,
Mhm.
on covers. So
Mhm.
it's all in. You never know what the photographer has planned for that picture. If somebody said, hey, I got an idea for you. I mean, if you don't want to take it, okay,
Yeah.
it's okay for you to say no. You can say no. That's okay. That's okay.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
just know that anytime a photographer reaches out to you, it's for a reason. For
Yep.
me, I feel
Mhm.
like it could be for a reason, because why else would you be reaching out?
Mhm.
Other than you, if you'd be like, hey, you want to do a shoot? Yeah, I know you're going to use it for something. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? So I
Mhm.
just figure, like, models, when you're working, whether you're getting paid or not, you're working. You're
Right.
branding yourself. You're
Mhm.
networking yourself. If you're signed,
Mhm.
if you're to an agency, you are branding them. You are a team.
Yes.
So that
Uh-huh.
is very important. You should not be out cussing at functions, photo shoots,
Oh my gosh.
runways, because
Oh,
I'm
I have
telling you what,
stories
it
about
gets
that.
back. It gets back. It always gets
Oh,
back.
please
Trust me.
always act professional. Oh, dear God,
Always, no
please.
matter what. No matter
Yes.
what. That is
I
just
don't
so
care
cool.
what level. I don't care what level of, A list, B list, C list, D list. I don't
Mhm.
care.
It's
It
just
is
not
still, you need to be professional. Yeah, I
at
don't
all
want to hear
times.
F-bombs everywhere. I don't want to, yeah, no.
Yeah, it's just not
Absolutely.
professional. And
No,
as a
it's not.
woman too, it's just not ladylike. Men
Hmm.
are different, but as a woman, you don't want to do that because what if
Hmm.
what if you slip up and say a cuss word in front of like somebody that goes to school at Paul Mitchell? You mess that
Hmm.
up for yourself.
Right. Hmm.
So it's just
Hmm.
when you're out, when you're on set, when you leave your house, you're
Yeah.
on set. It doesn't matter if
Yes,
there's no
that's
camera.
right.
That's how I am. When I leave my house,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
on set because
branding
I never
yourself.
know.
Yep.
I never know.
Yep.
I don't know who
Just
knows
always
you.
act professional.
Right. And
Always.
you never
Carry
know who you're gonna
yourself.
see.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I've ran into some people, y'all, here back at home, and I was looking a little busted. And baby, when they said Ardell, I was like,
Busted.
oh my gosh. I'm like,
No, where?
you know me?
You
Oh,
should just say, no, I'm Keisha.
okay. No, that's not me. I have a twin. Y'all know Ardell got a twin. That's what I'm gonna start saying because I be busted and I ran into a couple of people and they were men. Huh.
Hmm. Yeah.
I
That's
could have
always
had a
the case,
relationship,
right?
y'all.
Just, just when you think you can let your
Right.
guard down.
But we're human,
Yeah.
not all the time
Hmm.
do I all
Hmm.
I put myself together. It just
Hmm.
you have your days.
Me
But it's
neither.
very
But but even sitting around the house, like today, I was sewing at the machine for many hours,
mhm.
and I just had jeans and a sweatshirt on. But I mean, I was looking good.
Yeah.
I had the right jeans, nice dark, crisp jeans. I had a
Yep.
nice fresh Haute, Ohio sweatshirt on.
Okay.
Yeah, I was, it was just a sweatshirt, but
Mhm.
it's how you carry it. That's all.
Right.
That's right.
All
All
in
right,
how you
so we
carry it.
know it is important to bring it to every single shoot
Every
because the
shoot.
photographer has so many. All you have to do, and I'm not belittling your job because it is difficult. All you have to do is show up
That's
and
it.
stand there
That's it.
or sit there.
That's it.
I mean, that's all you have to do. The photographer has to make the lighting. The photographer has to make all of the adjustments on the camera. The designer has to make all the clothes. I mean, all you do is show up and sit there.
Just
In
like this.
reality, I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, there's a lot to your job. You need to know your lighting. You need to
But
know your
as
angles, that kind of
yes,
stuff. But
there's
hmm
certain jobs where it's really not like I did a cover shoot and it literally, I mean, that was something new for me. It was a gothic shoot. I've never done anything
hmm
like that. So it was amazing for me to do that. But I'm telling you, that was a different type of shooting. So you just
hmm
have to always models be open-minded, to
hmm
doing things and just always
hmm
stay prepared. You should always
hmm
practice. I practice in the mirror, all the time. I'm
hmm hmm
practicing my walk all the time. I would post
hmm
videos randomly of me walking. I don't have no
hmm
fashion show. I'm practicing.
hmm hmm
So it's just important that, models, you guys really live that, feel it, breathe it, because it makes the
Right.
job for the photographer so much easier. And your
hmm
pictures come out
hmm
flawless,
hmm That's right.
gorgeous.
Yeah, if you're not, yeah, it's a team effort and it takes all of you to make it happen. And, it starts with the model.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
do it right every time.
Every time.
Please. Every time.
Thank you for joining us in The Empire, a Fashion Empire podcast where we discuss the realities of the fashion industry inside and out. Thank you to our sponsors and platforms for sharing our show, and of course, our amazing guests for talking fashion with us. If you have an idea for an episode or want to be a guest, just visit HauteOhio, HauteOhio.com. And of course, shout out to you, our Empire citizens. We appreciate you and your support. As always, be sure to like, follow, comment, review, and share. Till next time, stand out and be fabulous.